Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming and the Onyx Path news via a different method. We're not using Hangouts live on air for once. We're actually using YouTube's live streaming feature. YouTube itself does have a live stream feature. Who knew? Who knew? I didn't. I've been clicking on Google Hangouts Live, but is there going to be much point to using this YouTube streaming feature for much longer? What with our increased presence on Twitch? I think that's got to be our first piece of news for the day. But before we get into that, I'm going to be saying hello to people who are joining. People who are joining, please, if you're watching this live, hello, Adrian. Good to see you. You know what? I'm actually recording this on my mobile phone. So I'm going to be interested to hear. Hello, Daniel. I'll be very interested to hear how well you can hear my voice. Now, before I get too far into all the news stuff, I know this is the news. Thank you for loving Chicago by Night, Remus. Someone commented on the last news article, is this really news or is it more of a live Q&A that just takes place every single week? And crystal clear quality, that's what I like to hear. Thank you very much. Well, I guess it's a bit of both. The news always occurs throughout the episode. This is news, John Burke. War with New Zealand. I think it's New Zealand or between Australia and Singapore, maybe. It's the day-to-day thing. John Burke will know. Ask John. When in doubt, ask John Burke. These are live Q&As because people really enjoy engaging with them. The fans really seem to love the opportunity to just talk to someone from Onyx Path Publishing about some of the products that are coming up or have just been released. Likewise, I like to be able to answer their questions. But also, we have some news regarding new releases, upcoming Kickstarters, Australia versus Hong Kong. Thank you very much, John. So we'll deal with the news element up front, shall we, before we start getting into anything Q&A. Looks like Adrian's been having some problems with the Twitch app. Okay, that's interesting. We'll have a look into that, see what might be going on. We have now just achieved affiliate status. That's our first piece of news. There should be lots of fireworks and wee-woohoo effects at this point because this is a big thing for us, achieving affiliate status on Twitch after such only a short time of broadcasting on there, and we've really launched into Twitch in earnest. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be putting up a new video on Twitch every single day. That would be untenable, it'd be a massive workload for us, but also you wouldn't be able to keep up with it. Really, we just wanted to start out strong and get out a few excellent actual plays, some interviews, doing a live Onyx Pathcast, and that was really popular. So we'll probably be doing some more of that in the future. Now, what we'll be doing in the immediate future for the Twitch channel, you shall soon see, because we will be putting up a schedule on the Twitch channel. Once this video is uploaded, this is something I can't do as well on mobile as I have been on my laptop. I will be adding to the description box below, hello Lady Gamer, hello David Fuller, that you can go onto our Twitch channel, you can subscribe, you can be notified whenever we do a new video. And hopefully, if you're watching it on a PC, you'll be watching it without any interference. I understand on mobile that there have been some issues that hopefully you'll be able to get clarified. It may be a Twitch issue rather than an Onyx Path issue, but we will definitely look into it because we want you to watch what it is that we're doing. Other than our increased online presence, what's going on this week? Well, right now, a lot of my colleagues are, well, I say a lot, a few of my colleagues are at Onyx Path are at Gen Con. And Gen Con, of course, if you're unfamiliar, is the biggest gaming convention in the world, and I'm sadly not there this year, as you can tell from the fact that I still have a bookcase behind me. It's not a green screen, these books are real, and one day when I pull one off the shelf, there you go, everything else will just fall down and crush me, as the people who play Wraith with me often say. Fact is, this year we've taken a different approach with Gen Con. We don't have a booth at Gen Con. The cost of doing so compared to the benefit of having one there wasn't really working out so much. And to be quite frank, we're experimenting quite a lot with different approaches to different conventions. In very pragmatic terms, the amount it costs to attend Gen Con and what one makes from Gen Con in terms of selling books is not necessarily as good as attending lots of different conventions across the world that cost significantly less and that allow us to reach new customers. So Gen Con this year, we've sent people there. They're hosting panels. There was a What's Up with Onyx Path panel. There was even a live play by the Saving Throw guys of Pirates of Pugmire this year. So there's plenty of Onyx Path activity at Gen Con. It's just we don't have a booth. We're selling our material there still through Studio 2 and Indie Press Revolution. So do check those stalls out if you happen to be passing by Indianapolis this weekend. Obviously, if you do, I hope you can get there because there's been a lot of road closures. This isn't, however, the traffic report. You'll have to look that up online yourself. Still, Gen Con, it's always an exciting convention to attend. It can sometimes be a bit of a grueling effort to get there, I have found, personally, travelling from the other side of the Atlantic. It's by no means cheap, by no means quick, and because Indianapolis isn't a hub airport, you always have to take a connecting flight. So there's always a certain amount of stress in terms of getting to Gen Con. But when you get there, being able to mix with all your colleagues and all the fans is always wonderful. So I am sure I will be going there again at some point, just not this year. I think it's a bit short term at this point to hop onto a plane on impulse and fly out to Indianapolis or Chicago to switch and go to Indianapolis. But anyway, in terms of new releases in the last couple of weeks, we've done a good few actually. I've had it up on my screen just now. We have the Jumpstart for Scion, A Light Extinguished, and you know what, I am really fond of the cover for A Light Extinguished. This is something I don't often talk about. That cover art, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but in that case, what's the point in having cover art? And the cover art for A Light Extinguished is beautiful. I love anything that makes a sphinx look scary. And I recommend checking that out. If you are interested in Scion, interested in playing the Children of Gods, then A Light Extinguished is a perfect way of getting into the Scion RPG. And it is available on Drive-Thru RPG. Likewise, Bloodsea for Scarred Lands, so for all your pirate doings over a sea that is literally filled with blood because there's a titan underneath it who just won't stop bleeding. Bloodsea is a lovely campaign for Scarred Lands that you can just pick up and play. So if D&D is your thing, then do check out Bloodsea. That's not all. We have, in fact, released a couple of more things in the last couple of weeks, including another 100 Devils Night Parade book for Exalted, 3rd edition. So this one deals with, let's see, I'll read this verbatim. The Sky Titan and the Storm Serpent. There you go. I can't attest to what those things are, but they sound ominous. What is, however, very interesting for me from the Exalted point of view is the fact that the Exalted soundtrack has just been released for purchase too. You can find links to these things on theonyxpath.com and on Drive-Thru RPG. I recommend going on theonyxpath.com simply because you will find these releases notifying you in recent blog posts. You'll just be able to scroll down and find the new releases. And our community manager, Ian Watson, has recently put up a release roundup for the last month, and it has been one hell of a busy month in terms of releases. We've released a ton of books. The other piece of news regarding releases is something that backers of Chicago by Night would have received very recently, and that is the PDF of Chicago by Night, and it has been immensely gratifying to see the sheer amount of love for Chicago by Night. People have been waxing wonderfully about Chicago. And hello, the Luxdale, and hello, Sean. Chicago by Night, it was a real labour of love. We poured a hell of a lot into its creation in terms of hours, in terms of creativity, in terms of getting just the right writing team. and artist's team and the editor and the layout artist. Every single person that went into that book was perfect for that book, including some of the people who are watching this live stream, John Burke and Clara Herbal included. We really went all out on Chicago, and I think it shows. Errata is currently being collected, so we'll be incorporating that errata before some of that errata we deem appropriate, before the book comes out in print, but that won't take long at all. So please do check out Chicago by Night. If you missed the Kickstarter, and here's the next big thing, if you missed the Kickstarter, I keep seeing your messages popping up, so sometimes I'm getting a bit distracted. You can still get the PDF of Chicago by Night for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition by going on Backerkit.com. If you go on Backerkit.com, type in Chicago by Night, all you have to do is back at the PDF level and you will get the PDF. It is as simple as that. That is how you get it. You can still do it. Doesn't matter if you missed the Kickstarter, so you can still get on board, still comment on errata before it comes out in print and errata has gone by. But at that point, no more errata will be accepted. So if you're the kind of person that likes to have a say on content, then please do back the PDF now. It will be much appreciated. But yeah, Chicago by Night has gone down amazingly well. There's been so many tweets about it, so many Facebook posts about it, and all the love that's being shown towards this book and its creators has been wonderful to see. I think the fact that people have been tagging Paradox Interactive whenever they've been saying, this is how a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition book should look. Part of me thinks, do Paradox want to know? But then I think, yes, yeah, Paradox should know. If people love what Onyx Path are doing with Vampire the Masquerade books, then we absolutely want the owners of the license to know that we're doing it right. Sale figures are one thing, audience voice is quite another. So if you really think that Chicago by Night is fantastic, it's everything that a Vampire the Masquerade sourcebook should be, in art, in layout, in writing, then make your post on Twitter. Twitter's always a good place to do it. So you tweet, you at the Onyx Path, you at PDX Interactive, and you say what you think about Chicago by Night. Even if it's critical, quite frankly. I mean, I'd rather you didn't, but I want you to be honest. Getting noticed for our hard work it's important to any writer, and when you're dealing with a property that's licensed, it is even more important that the company up above is hearing all the positivity about our release. So that's that. That's not the only book you can still get on Backerkit, however. We've got a whole bunch of books on Backerkit. We've got Dark Eras 2, we have Geist the Sin Eaters, I think. That's a good question, actually. Geist may have dropped off. We're running out of books on Backerkit. We've got the Trinity Continuum Aeon. Very soon we'll have Aberrant. Aberrant, as a point of reference, just concluded its Kickstarter. We surpassed 200% funding. We did really, really well, and my hat goes off to Ian Watson and the rest of the team, Steve Kenson and the rest of the team, everyone who worked on Aberrant to make it such a standout game. And you know what, to Travis Legg as well, because Travis has been running our Twitch channel so well, and he's been running an actual play of Aberrant that drew a lot of people into backing. They commented as such. So that's always excellent. It's nice to know that when we run an actual play, when we talk about an upcoming game, that you are commenting to say, it was this that made me back, or this that made me buy. There is no wraith exiting my body, I'm not possessed. But thank you very much for the comments insinuating that I'm either a wraith, I'm either one of the Risen, I'm either a demon whose cover has just dropped, or, you never know, it could be my beast coming off the chain. We don't know yet. I guess time will tell. What's our next Kickstarter going to be? It's going to be Deviant the Renegades. Deviant the Renegades is a Chronicles of Darkness game for... it's a Chronicles of Darkness game. That will be on Kickstarter this year. Should be out later this month on Kickstarter. Likewise, we should be kickstarting the Creature Collection for Scarred Lands. So what we're trying to do is a bit of a two-pronged approach here. with Handiwork Games, in partnership with Handiwork Games, we're releasing the Creature Collection for Scarred Lands. So if you're a fantasy gamer, a good old-fashioned Dungeons & Dragons gamer, there's something for you. Because we're aware that we haven't released a great amount of fantasy material, so the Creature Collection and I Love Bestiaries will be there on Kickstarter. But likewise, Deviant the Renegades will be there as well. We do have 2 different Kickstarter accounts. Got the company one, got the personal one. So there's something for everyone. You got horror, you got fantasy. Would you say that Chicago by Night is a good starting setting for new V5 players? Asks person whose name I've never been able to pronounce. I would say yes. Well, in fact, it is in a way the default setting for Vampire the Masquerade. It has lots of starter chronicle hooks and one big chronicle. Has all the SPCs, that's the V5 word for NPCs, that you could possibly need. It has a whole bunch of material on the city itself, but what's more, if you don't want to set the game in Chicago, that's absolutely fine. This is one of those things that deters people at point of entry. They think, I don't want to run a game in Chicago, I want to run it in my city. Well, there's a whole bunch of characters and plot hooks and useful information, including how to play the La Sombra and their discipline are in Chicago by Night, that you can transpose it anywhere. You just need to file the serial numbers off. While it's got a definite Chicago feel, it doesn't restrict you to using it in Chicago. So, there's that. You know what, I'm looking at my screen while I'm doing this, and I've just realised I've no idea how to terminate this broadcast, so that could be an interesting challenge once we get to the end of the video. We'll look forward to that little hurdle. Lots of people giving kind words about The Sacrifice. The Sacrifice was the chronicle that Clara wrote for Chicago by Night, and it is a brilliant chronicle, one of the best chronicles that I have ever read for Vampire. And chronicles aren't easy to write for Vampire the Masquerade because it's a primarily social game, a political game. Having a linear story like a lot of pre-written adventures have it can be poison to a game of Vampire. If anything, games like the Giovanni Chronicles highlight some of the issues of having a linear storyline where all the big players are the ones making decisions and you're just observing from the outside. That's not too much fun, but the Sacrifice really gets it down well. And what's more, we've got Chronicles coming up and Let the Streets Run Red, which fulfill a similar function. So hopefully there's going to be something for everyone. Yeah, I'll just have to wait till my battery runs down for the broadcast to terminate. The problem is I charged my phone before this, so we'll be waiting for some time. Yes, so Chicago by Night is still on Backerkit, to the person whose name just disappeared off my screen. What else do we have? Well, we've got community content, and I want to point everyone's attention to the Slarecian Vault. I know I do it a lot, but I'm doing it for a special reason, and that's because Vengeance of the Shunned, which is a mega campaign set in the Scarred Lands, is having a new release put out pretty much every week, sometimes multiple times a week right now. So if you're familiar with the DM's Guild, where people are creating classes and adventures and the like for Dungeons & Dragons, the Forgotten Realms, the Slarecian Vault does the exact same thing for Scarred Lands, and the Vengeance of the Shunned campaign is brilliant. It is a fantastic D&D campaign. Genuinely, if you, for whatever reason, have missed the boat on Dungeons & Dragons, or specifically 5th edition, this is a really good way to get into it, so please do check that out. It matters not that it is a community creation. If anything, we like that. We love the fact that the community are getting involved, they're putting their products up there, and people are engaging with them so well. And those products, the Vengeance of the Shunned products, have been doing very well as well for community content, so all kudos to them. If you want to know more about Scarred Lands and the material that's coming up for it, I recommend checking out the interview that the Onyx Path cast people, myself, Eddie Dixie, did with Travis Legg last week. It should still be visible, I think, on the Twitch channel, because he talks about Scarred Lands at quite some length. Finn, I think it's Finn JP, says, when is the Kickstarter for Cult of the Blood Gods going to start, or is there going to be one for it? There will be one for it. It should be coming up in the next few months. David Fuller has just pointed out something as well that's also well worth my pushing, and that's the Story Path Nexus. The Story Path Nexus is the community content program for our Story Path system games. So Scion, Dystopia Rising, they came from. Right now it's just Scion, but there's already a whole load of material up there for it. And I really recommend, if you want to get noticed as a new writer, or if you just want to get your foot on the ladder, I guess, creating content for a game like Scion, which is a game we are actively supporting and we're really pushing, we want Scion to do very well. Create something 1 or 2 page for Scion, a list of antagonists, a list of powers, a setting. You can do what you like, put it up on the Story Path Nexus, and then you can sell it for whatever figure you want, and if people buy it, you get a claim of the profits. So yeah, good stuff. Now, I am missing people's comments because I'm just so busy talking about releases, because this is the news. See, I've succumbed to the pressure of people saying, isn't this the news? This looks more like a Q&A. So maybe I shouldn't listen to the fans anymore. No, I'll always listen to you. Your opinion matters. Your opinion matters so much to me. Social media presence now, and Onyx Path in the media. I mentioned the Twitch channel already, and I mentioned Saving Throw with their brilliant Pirates of Pugmire actual play. And Sean Gates has asked, when will Trinity be on the Nexus? It won't be long. Will Scarred Lands be updated per Pathfinder 2nd Edition? It may well be. It depends on how well Pathfinder 2nd Edition does, whether it's lucrative for us to support Pathfinder. You guys are going to continue a play of Scion on here. We will probably be doing it on the Twitch channel, and then it will be being uploaded to the YouTube channel. So yes, we will be doing a Scion actual play as well. There's all kinds of games planned for the future. Other Onyx Path media worth mentioning. Let's see. Well, we have our Wraith the Oblivion Chronicle that will keep going up. I've stopped the uploads of that because we've been so focused on Twitch. I didn't want to oversaturate people watching both channels with too much content. But as things slow down a little, you'll start getting Wraith content as well. We also have Chicago by Night. Chicago by Night is being run by Clara for Red Moon role-playing with me as a player, and footage from that, audio footage from that, will be going up onto this channel too. And sooner or later I'll be running Cults of the Blood Gods Chronicle for Red Moon role-playing as well, I suspect. There's a whole bunch of YouTubers, Twitchers, if that's the term, and others who are creating content for us right now. Too many to list off, but I will give it a go. Devil's Luck Gaming do arguably the best Scarred Lands actual play going right now. They wear costumes when they run their games on Twitch, so please do check that out. It's just fun. Caffeinated Conquests are likewise doing Chicago by Night, but they're doing it with V20 system, so check out Caffeinated Conquests if you want to see what I think has been described as 2nd edition wackiness mixed with 5th edition grime. Daniel says, when are you going to participate in Chicago by Night as a player? I'm already doing it. Near Dark is doing a production of Chicago by Night as well. There's actually a whole bunch of Chicago by Night Chronicles that are running right now. And people who are watching this, if you've got links to those actual plays, by all means put them in the chat log so other people can find them. I love that so many people are gravitating to this city that we have only just released the PDF for. Just goes to show how good the manuscript was that it incentivized that many people to play, so I couldn't be happier. Who else do we have creating content? We also have the Story Told podcast, who do a sterling job of their Exalted actual play. They do reviews, or they've been doing reviews of Changeling. They did one of the Changeling 20 Players Guide. They have likewise done overviews and reviews of Changing the Lost and interviews with various of our creators, so do check them out. Occultists Anonymous, who we will be hosting on our Twitch channel, are a long way into their Mage the Awakening Chronicle, but if you want to get into Mage, it's a brilliant entry point to finding out how that game runs, and there's even crossover with Geist. So yeah, we've actually got a whole load of places in the media that we're active right now, so yeah, do look us up. Type in Onyx Path Actual Play, type in whatever game you're interested in Actual Play, and I think you'll probably find something. So, with that said, that's the news. That's everything we're doing right now. And of course, the big thing that was kind of buried in all that is Deviant the Renegades will be our next big Chronicles of Darkness Kickstarter. So do look out for that. It won't be long now before you see that on Kickstarter. We'll make lots of bells and whistles go off on the onyxpath.com. Marius says, will we see more Contagion Chronicle Actual Play? That depends on whether the players are available. I would love to continue running it, but the players are not presently available to play. I do think, though, that the beginning episodes of that are a very good way of demonstrating how disparate creatures can come to work together, and by the end of it you were just starting to see the factions. You could already see the contagion affecting people, but by the end of it you were seeing how the factions were coming into play in the city of Odense in Denmark. So yeah, I was happy with how that was going. Hopefully I get a chance to revisit it. So now I'm going to turn it over to you for that pesky Q&A section for as long as I can continue broadcasting. Do any of you have any questions for this week for Onyx Path Publishing, or specifically me, Matthew Dawkins, the Gentleman Gamer, and various other titles that I might award myself, given enough time? Now is the time. Now is the winter of our discontent. We do have a character in Chicago by Night who keeps quoting plays such as, well, I think he's been doing more of a Richard II than a Richard III, but John Burke can probably correct me there. Nope, I'm seeing no commentary popping up on the chat log. How wonderful. Well, that makes my life very easy. It could be that there's a delay for it. There we go. All right, for God's sake, let us sit upon the... Yes. Thank you, Lord Percy. Not much to say, says Daniel. Excellent. Well, in that case, if people don't have questions... Yeah, alright, I spoiled the news by letting you ask questions during it. What was the most interesting character created for a game you DM'd, asks Pavel Novicki. Ooh. Do I... Most interesting character created for a game I DM'd. No, not you and Dunsern, John. I ran a long campaign of Pathfinder, actually, where we had, there was a player who created an elven sorcerer who had a ridiculously high physical stats, strength and constitution, but he was always being played as this coughing, bent double with a cane kind of a character who would suddenly be able to burst into action. And there was this lovely inversion. He was pretty low on intelligence, and he wasn't fast, but when he hit people, it was like being hit by a truck. I always found him quite a lot of fun. He died when he walked under an archway with a death spell embedded in it. I've been asked, is there any news on Wealth for the Apocalypse 5th edition? You'd have to check that with Paradox. Sean Gates, any more news on Adventure? Check out the Aberrant Kickstarter and what the last updates were. Because I think we mentioned Adventure on there, but if not, the best person to follow, other than the Onyx Path itself, is follow Mr. Ian Watson. On Twitter, he is Von Aether, so that's Von, V-O-N, A-E-T-H-E-R. Why do I say follow Ian? Because if anyone's going to be talking about Adventure, it's Ian. It's for getting Midnight Circus in the 20th anniversary line or product. You want me to... So you want to pitch getting Midnight Circus done for the 20th anniversary edition? Oh, of World of Darkness. You could pitch it. You would have to... So you'd have to follow the usual submission guidelines, and this applies to anyone wanting to submit book ideas. You go on the onyxpath.com, you go on submission guidelines, we're along the top ribbon, and you make a submission for a book idea, a product, or a writing sample. And my recommendation is that you do a covering letter that explains exactly why, what your concept is for this book. It can't just be an update. You need to, I'll get back to this in a sec. Zelf, there aren't plans for doing more SAS for Chronicles of Darkness. They never really sold very well, unfortunately. We are doing jump starts, though, that fulfill a very similar function. So there's a few of those out already. But getting back to that. You want to say what this book does that the previous edition does not. You want to be able to say in your pitch why this idea is a good one. why it's going to appeal, why it's going to sell. That's got to be important to a publisher like us, because we want to know what is what the market wants. And I know that sounds very corporate, sounds very capitalistic. Marius says, what kind of interspat dynamic would most interest you in Contagion? And also, as a citizen of Odense, why did you choose Odense? Oh, we've got another Odense citizen. I chose it because it's one of the chapters in the book, written by Clara Herbal, who is hovering around in this chat, and it's a city I know reasonably well. There you go. Now you're talking to each other in Danish. Yes, there are some SASs on the Storyteller's Vault, so you can check those out too. But yeah, going back to other things that you put in a Midnight Circus pitch, you would want to lay out the rough contents of a book. You would want to say, let's see, what you'd imagine each chapter would be and what each chapter would contain. That's quite important. It does appear the Danes have now invaded the chat log, so hello Denmark. One of you is enough. Is there going to be a book that details the Gehenna Crusade? I imagine, Stephen, there will be a lot of Sabbat books coming. They came from Denmark. No. John Burke likes Sweden because he's planning on being attacked now by the Danes. Alright, right now we're going to be starting a Scandinavian war in the chat log. So what else would I put in a pitch regarding Midnight Circus? I would give some example mechanics. What was the funniest thing that happened during testing of They Came From Beneath the Sea, says Pavel. The funniest thing to happen during testing of They Came From Beneath the Sea was... You know, I remember really, for some reason, and it's testament, I guess, to the smartness behind some of the cinematics. I didn't write them before They Came From Beneath the Sea. I came up with a lot of the ideas, but I didn't write them. When someone used cheap set to just run straight through a wall to get away from a crawling ooze, they just thought, you know what, I could try jumping over it. It was a bear hunt thing. Can't go over it, can't go under it, and I sure as hell aren't going through it. So they just turned around, used cheap set, and just went straight through the concrete wall. And, you know, there's a man-shaped a manhole, if you like, in the wall where they ran away, and that just set me into hysterics. There's been a lot of occasions where They Came From that I've just ended up laughing. So yeah, in short, what your Midnight Circus pitch needs to contain is your idea behind what is going to be new about this version of the book. You need to be able to say what is going to sell about this book and appeal to customers. You're going to want to say whether there's a what kind of content you expect to have in each chapter, what your estimated word count or page count is going to be. Is it going to be a big book, a small book, somewhere in between? And you know what I would also recommend? You stating in your pitch why you think it works best as an Onyx Path product and not a Storyteller's Vault product created by fans who are interested in doing it themselves. Because I think that's going to be a big question. Given that 5th edition is out now for Vampire, we're not going to be creating any more 20th anniversary editions purely for Vampire. So for us to go back to that well would require a very good selling point. So hopefully that's helped. I would tend to keep all that to a single covering letter, and then I would do a writing sample if you were intending on writing on it yourself. Of up to 1,000 words, half system, half setting, just to show that you can do both. Any other questions before I work out how to depart from this madness? Spare me the madness, as the man says in Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon, of course, behind me. That's a Pinnacle Games RPG for Savage Worlds. So do we have any other Pinnacle Entertainment? Prince Baron to come in. Prince Baron, that would be a confusing title in Vampire, wouldn't it? What would you say is an historical era that is the least utilised by RPGs, asks Pavel. Pavel, you're full of good questions right now, and I appreciate it. I've always enjoyed the English Civil War, you know, for obvious reasons. I've got a certain amount of family history tied up in the English Civil War as well. So I would love to one day be able to explore the old Cavaliers and Roundheads. dynamic, such as it was. Parliamentarians versus royalists. And I think it would have made for an excellent dark era. And one that would cause no end of controversy, I'm sure, which I would love to be able to visit, but I'm not sure I'd be able to, would be the Troubles, because it's very present. Yeah, Witchfinder General would be very good for English Civil War. A Field in England as well would be an excellent movie as inspiration. But yeah, I think the Troubles would be an excellent setting to have werewolves and hunters in for Wealth the Forsaken. I think the big issue for a dark era set in something that's so tender, so modern in terms of its, well, being a place where a lot of aggression, a lot of murder took place, is obviously there's the issue of it being an incredibly sensitive subject, but also you run the risk of bias. I'm British, I'm English if you prefer, so I can't really, I couldn't really say that I would be the developer of a book set in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. I think that would probably go down very well, but neither would I want someone, an American-Irish person to do it, for instance, because there's often a lot of sympathies one way or the other based on what happened. So yeah, you'd have to be very clever. Find someone completely removed, a German, to develop it. One more question, and I'm going to go. Because these news broadcasts last longer than the local news in Britain. Where would the Lost fit in within a story set during the Troubles? Asks Michael. Oh, I think that exists on every side, but I think that... Oh, good. There's something wrong with the audio. That's good, because that means it's my cue to leave. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And I think this has worked all right, other than the bizarre audio issues. I think it's worked all right to broadcast it on my phone. So, thank you very much. And maybe next time we'll broadcast on Twitch, and it will then be uploaded onto YouTube. But if 307RPG tuned in too late, no you didn't, 307RPG, because 307RPG is going to be one of the channels we're really promoting over here on Onyx Path, because they love to play our games, they do actual plays of our games, and I cannot recommend 307RPG enough. Do type them into Google, they do brilliant actual plays, not just of our games either, so do look them up. I really can't recommend them. So you didn't tune in too late, 307RPG, I'm glad you poked your head in the door. So thank you very much everyone for watching. And sorry everyone about the war between Australia and Hong Kong and the war between Denmark and Sweden that erupted in the chat log. I'm sure it won't happen next time. Now how do I turn this damn thing off? Maybe it's this button. Oh, I think it is.